45 years. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, we do.
A staff member that can represent this issue? Of course we do. Good morning.
Before Linda Evans, Division Manager, Parking Permits Division, I want to just congratulate and thank Aaron on such diligence and such hard work, constant emails. He operates at a very, very high level, and he follows processes to a T, and he will challenge them. And I just want the commissioners to know that we have followed the rules and the procedures to the letter of the law. And I'll let Aaron present.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Aaron Thompson, Management Analyst with the Los Angeles Department of Transportation Parking Permits Division. The item before you today is a request to establish preferential parking district number 292 in the Brentwood Glen neighborhood in Council District 11. Council District 11 staff contacted the Parking Permit Division to request a meeting with several residents of the Brentwood Glen neighborhood to discuss the preferential parking district program relative to the parking issues affecting the neighborhood. The residents indicated that UCLA students, employees of nearby hotels, and other non-residents park in the neighborhood, making it difficult to find on-street parking. Following the meeting, Councilmember Mike Bonin submitted an official letter of request to the department for the establishment of a preferential parking district. Following receipt of Councilmember Bonin's request letter, staff issued petitions for the residents of each block included in the request. Subsequently, the department received signed petitions that met the petition criteria for 9 blocks, and originally it was only 11 blocks. It was reduced to 9. Someone indicated it was more than 11. It was 11 blocks reduced to 9 due to the counter petition. And that exceeded the 6-block minimum requirement. In addition, staff conducted a parking study on multiple blocks within the proposed area and confirmed that 13 blocks were excessively impacted by on-street parking at the time of the parking study. Based on this information, the department recommends the approval for the establishment of preferential parking district number 292. And I want to add that anyone who did not submit a petition that met the requirements will not be impacted by any restrictions that are installed. It will only impact the people that submitted petitions and wanted the restrictions. Mm-hmm. So if you live on a block that is not posted, you do not have to purchase the permit. You can park on your block without any restrictions. And I'll be happy to answer any of your questions.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. I have a couple of questions, and then I'm going to open it up to commissioners for their questions, because I think there will be some. The first question I have is, it's been said that the parking study was skewed, the percentage, that it's not actual 85%, that it's really 65% of respondents.
The parking study applies to individual blocks, not the entirety of the neighborhood. So we apply the parking study on a block-by-block basis.
The next, I get that. I understand. Thank you. The next question is that the parking study was skewed because some of the blocks are very short blocks, and to say that there is no parking there when there are only maybe 2 cars and it could maybe fit 3 cars is inaccurate.
There's a map that indicates where the blocks that passed the parking study, and you would see the blocks in blue that passed. Now, the rules and procedures do not specify the length of a block. It does not specify how many houses are on a block or how many cars can fit on a block. It identifies a block as being intersection to intersection.
So you're using the letter of the law on that.
Exactly.
All right. And my last question is that there was some question as far as the petitions that were accepted, that the results might have been skewed or coerced. Did you find anything?
That is something that that takes place at the time that I issue blank petitions to a designated resident. The method that they go about obtaining the signatures is outside of the department's purview. What we do is we review, when I receive the petitions, we verify a certain percentage of the signatures to verify that they actually did sign. So the method that they went about obtaining it is, we're not there at the time.
So you believe that you have 85% within the designated blocks that would be affected?
A minimum of 75% must pass the petition process, and yes, I did.
Great, thank you very much. I'd like to open the questioning if any other.
I just have a clarifying question. You mentioned, from 13 to 9, or sorry, from 11 to 9 to how many blocks are actually included in this?
9 blocks past the petition.
And in the report, just to make it very clear in my mind, there is a PPD boundary,
Right.
but within that boundary, there are only certain blocks that will be getting, the residents are going to get permits.
Right.
Okay.
But any block within that boundary any resident who resides in the block, on any block within the boundary, can request a petition at any later date.
I see.
To be posted.
Okay, all right.
How many total blocks are in the boundary? The council office requested 70-some blocks to be included?
74 total.
74. I think that was.
Okay.
So out of 74 blocks, 9 will be preferred parking?
9 will be posted.
Right.
All the blocks will be included within the boundary, and any block within that boundary can, any resident.
At a later date?
Yeah, at a later date.
And do all the residents, this is Commissioner Lubon again, do all the residents understand what you just said, that only 75% passed petitions will be included as a PPD?
Yeah, and I've
permitted?
indicated to the opponents who have contacted me,
Okay,
including some people that are here,
okay.
that only the residents that live on a block that's posted will be impacted.
No, the question is, do they understand that if their block, although it's within the PPD boundary, does not have 75% of the petitions, will not be posted? They understood
I made that
that.
very
Okay,
clear.
all right, okay.
Commissioner Tejada, thank you so much for answering our questions, and because I have a few, because there's so many different numbers going around right now. PPD, the whole area, Beverly Glen, if I was a resident there and I'm not on a block that is posted, can I still buy a permit?
You can still purchase a permit and park on any block that is posted, an annual permit.
An annual permit?
Right.
Okay, and it is true that there was a study and it showed that UCLA students and other people were parking?
We perform a parking study to identify blocks that are impacted by 85%. Well, the parking spaces are impacted by 85% of the spaces are impacted. 85% of the spaces are
Okay,
impacted.
so but there was no study that showed it was UCLA students or who it is?
That's identified by the residents and the council district.
Mm-hmm.
And we only verified that there's actually vehicles on the block occupying 85%
Okay,
of the space.
so that's like what a traffic study, a parking study is. It just says how many
vehicles,
cars were on there.
Exactly.
It doesn't identify who's driving them,
Right, or that whether they're residents or not.
residents or not, yeah.
Okay, and it's only done one day or one time?
One time.
One time, okay. And so as some of the residents had mentioned, there was construction and things like that, and other construction areas going on, and neighbors. Was it during that time that the study was done?
I don't know what was taking place at that time, but construction isn't considered one of the leading factors for establishing a PPD because it's a temporary issue.
Right,
Focus
right.
on non-temporary
So
issues.
that's what thank you. That's what I'm trying to get at is like, was the study done when there was heavy construction? Because I know I live in Miracle Mile area, so I know, there's construction problems and yes, and it causes a lot of problems. But yeah, so then, exactly. That's, I was just wondering if that's how that was related, like when was the study done exactly compared to this, compared to when the petitions were and things. So just.
But, yeah, like I said, I don't know what activity is taking place at the time of the parking
Okay.
study, but.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We wouldn't have included any construction vehicles or anything of
Right,
that
not
nature.
construction vehicles, but
Art.
like, yeah, if, I mean, because what neighbors have said, and I have this in my own neighborhood too, I mean, we do have a PPD in Miracle Mile, but is that when there is construction, then you're going to go somewhere else and park. So some of the residents here may now be parking on the areas that would be posted, right? But maybe now, anyway, I'm, I'm a systems person as an engineer, and so this is, I'm just thinking about all the different things that could happen and what is going to actually be the remedy,
Linda Evans,
yeah.
just keep in mind, those who didn't sign a petition to support it, they won't have them on their street.
Okay.
Linda,
Commissioner Laban.
yeah, to that point, if the particular block actually have 75% of the petitioners, at some point in the future, they don't need it anymore, for whatever reason, can they de-petition?
They can circulate a petition to remove the restriction on their block.
Okay, good,
And
perfect.
it's the same standard, 75%.
75% to not
Remove it.
remove it, okay.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
And just as a clarifying, just for me, as I'm new to this too, is one of the speakers also had a question about 4 blocks, and something was 4 blocks was the requirement, or it wasn't. And do you know what that was in regards to?
So 4 blocks is the standard that's been applied by the department as long as I've been here. I've been here 3 years, but far longer than that.
A
For the
standard
parking
for
study.
for a parking study. Okay. So a standard in which way? What?
Meaning that 80 on-street parking must be occupied, 85% of the on-street parking must be occupied by vehicles at the time of the parking study.
Okay. But
Go
where
ahead.
does the 4 blocks come in of that? That's this.
Just 4 blocks, any 4 blocks within the boundary
Uh-huh.
of a proposed district
Uh-huh.
is the requirement.
Okay. So 4 blocks, 85%, and then that's how you decide whether something
That's
is
the
going to
parking-
be.
it's the parking impact study, yes.
Yeah. So 85%, the cars are going to have to be there. It's 85% is a very high percentage within those 4 blocks. So if there is a problem, it certainly will be identified.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a very tight system.
And the bottom line is that within a neighborhood, some blocks will be impacted more than others. You may drive down one block and it's completely filled, a couple blocks over, but the people that live on the block that's not having a problem can't determine whether you have a problem 3 blocks over. You have a problem, you have a problem.
And so I'll just add, Dan Mitchell with the Department of Transportation, that after this is posted, should you approve and this move forward, that the conditions could change, right? That may change where people park, and then that may change whether people want to participate or not.
Yeah.
But the action before you today provides for that opportunity.
Commissioner Eisenberg, I have a question. Can you please give me the arguments for or against this possible proposal idea? What if we approved not the whole district, just your blocks that had the 75% threshold?
Well, if you
What
look
would
at the
that?
map-
How would that affect one way or the other?
In a couple of ways, if you look at the map with the striped lines, colored map, you have the blocks in red that were that passed the petition process. So you have blocks at one end, you have a couple of blocks on the northern end, and you have several blocks in the middle where there's a big impact apparently due to its location near the entry. And then you have a couple of blocks toward the opposite end. And also I might add that there are some outstanding petitions currently that are due no later than November, but they're still outstanding, in the section near Sunset Boulevard. And the reason why they're still outstanding is because there was an amended letter of request to add those additional blocks later in the process. I already have the minimum requirements to move forward currently. So it's possible that additional petitions would be submitted for those areas, those blocks in that area.
And this is
So you
Dan
really
Mitchell.
need to-
I'll just add to Aaron's response. So it appears from the map that if you only included the blocks with 85%, you would actually exclude most of the blocks that have submitted petitions that meet the requirement. So they're not necessarily all, they don't all match. And so the boundaries that we've included were the ones that were specifically requested by the council office and reflect a comprehensive look at the impacted area. So if only certain blocks were included, we would actually not be able to post the blocks where petitions were received meeting the 75% threshold, because they don't all overlap at this time, right? But
And if you look at the blocks in blue, those blocks were impacted. The parking study identified that. So it's very possible that at some point, residents on those blocks may request a petition.
Excuse me, is this
Commissioner
the
Lai.
map that,
Yes.
is this the one? Okay, because I don't have any one that is blue.
Commissioner Lies.
Oh, sorry, just clarification.
I think you're going exactly where I'm going.
Okay.
There's a rationale for this boundary, right? Can someone explain for the record what the rationale is for, certain blocks meeting the test and then enclosing the boundary for additional blocks? Because maybe I'm wrong, but it's sort of like whack-a-mole, right? Like, so if you have like permit parking on these 4 blocks or 5 blocks within the boundary, then all of a sudden the cars sort of migrate to the other blocks, and
Right.
then you want to make it easier for the next block to request it. I don't know. I think it's important for us to hear that.
The blocks in red, if there's a legitimate problem on those blocks, then the people that are currently parking on those blocks will eventually move to the adjacent block.
Yeah.
So you want to enclose the entire area so that we don't have to come back later
Yep.
to expand the district, which often happens.
Yep.
You want to include them now within the approval process so that at some point in the future, they simply have to request a petition, and if they pass, then we post.
and the adjacent blocks would also have the opportunity to, they'd be eligible to buy a permit to park in the restricted blocks.
Right.
Yes.
As
So
long
that's
as
the
they're
other
within the
effect.
boundary. That's another
Right.
great point.
And each household, Commissioner Eisenberg, each household can buy 2 permits,
3 annual permits and 2 visitor permits.
Commissioner Hayden, did you
Now-
have another question?
You can only purchase a visitor permit if the restriction is posted on your block.
Got it. So no posting, you can get 2. With posting, you can get 3.
With posting, you can get 3 annual permits and 2 visitor permits.
Okay,
Without posting, you can get 3 annual permits, and everyone's
And no
entitled to the
visitor.
guest permits.
got it. Thank you.
Mr. Commissioner, I just want to thank you so much for clarifying all of these different issues, and I'm speaking here as an opinion on this, and hopefully this can at least clarify what I think is the issue. There is a big problem here. It's my understanding from the speakers earlier and from your report today that this is one of the few remaining areas that don't have a PPD, and so therefore people migrate into this particular location. There's an efficiency of scale that we're trying to understand here in terms of the commissioners approving this PPD, and that is this whole area can potentially be impacted in the future.
Yeah.
There's a subset of streets in this area that is now significantly impacted. That's going to get the posting. Those individuals can enjoy the street one more time. And for those people who are parking in there right now, who now will not be able to park there because of that permit, can potentially migrate into the bigger area of the PPD. And like what I said earlier, this is just what you're trying to do here is an efficiency of scale. You're not wanting to do any more of the study simply because people have simply migrated to another location within the same area. Given all of that, I'd like to move this to move forward for approval and to accept staff recommendation for a PPD.
Commissioner Choi, I'd like to ask something of the attorney privately for one moment, if I may.
I don't know about that. Are you
Okay,
you can
then
ask me
I will just
publicly.
state it publicly. One of the speakers is someone that many years ago I did a very small amount of business with when I owned a business many years ago, and I just want to make sure there's no conflict there. Many years ago, very small amount of business.
I don't see a.
I owned a business and I purchased some of her items.
I don't think it would impact your decision.
Okay, it doesn't. It won't. I just want to be. Correct, and I just want to be on the record. Thank you.
And we did have a late speaker card that came in. So I would like to hear this one last speaker before we vote on this item. Susan Casamare. I'm sure I butchered that. I apologize. Casamasina.
I apologize for being late. I didn't know where the meeting was, so I've been here since 10 o'clock wandering around. I've lived in Brentwood Glen for almost 30 years. Our neighborhood is sandwiched between the VA and the freeway. It's 14 blocks long and a block or a block and a half wide. The neighborhood is impacted by a couple of things. Number one, there are only a few ways to get in. Number two, we are just south of 2 hotels, and people who frequent the hotel, be they cab drivers, Uber drivers, or people going to the hotel, tend to park on one of the north-south streets. Another major impact is students going to UCLA who park in the neighborhood on Montana, which is the only east-west street that allows you to get into the neighborhood. The neighborhood adjacent to us has a PPD. So because of those factors, we get a greater amount of usage of the main street, the main north-south street, the main east-west street. I personally don't live on either of those streets, but I see the impact there, and I want to support my neighborhood by because I think that it's and I heard the gentleman speak before, if you don't do the whole neighborhood, well, if you can't park on if you can't park on Church Lane, you can't park on Montana, you're going to park on the next street. So that's one reason. It's for traffic impact. The other reason I support this is because I think there's a safety issue. I want to make sure the people in the neighborhood should be there. And I think that by having the restricted parking, we see all these crazy things going on. I want to make sure people there are there for the reason they should be, that they're a guest or a resident in the neighborhood.
Great. Thank you very much. So at this point now, I will entertain a motion.
I didn't make a motion.
Do we have a second for the motion?
Commissioner Choi, I'll second.
All in favor of accepting the proposal for the preferred parking district?
President Eisenberg, I just wanted to have a point of discussion before we move
Absolutely.
With the vote. Just want to make sure and reiterate the fact, and Ms. Evans had clarified this earlier, that while this is an overlay on the neighborhood, only 75%. If it exceeds 75% impacted, then it becomes the posted area. The other areas can rescind that in the future by a 75% petition, and for those areas that are not impacted, can petition within this overlay in the future for them to get posting as well. Okay, I just want to put that on the record. Right.
Thank you. So we have a first, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Sounded kind of quiet, so let's raise our hands. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
And before we lose the folks that came out, I just want to say on behalf of the department, this is Dan Mitchell, that we very much appreciate the public participation. We understand that there's a diversity of opinions on this issue, as is true in many neighborhoods, and we are not, cold or dispassionate to that point. We appreciate everyone's participation. Our role as the Department of Transportation is to carry out the policy that our policymakers have approved, and we've done that and hopefully provided the flexibility for everyone to adjust to this new environment in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm with Councilmember Mike Rollins. I was told that I'd be able to just speak briefly on this.
You can, but the motion's over. It carried.
Yeah.
I understand.
Sure,
But
go
if
right
you'd
ahead.
like to speak? Yes.
Absolutely.
My statement actually has very little to do with that.
Traditionally, at the
Hey,
council office.
I'm sorry, can you please state your name?
Absolutely. I'm Lisa Cahill. I am the Brentwood Palisades Field Deputy and the Environmental Liaison for Councilmember Mike Bonin for Council District 11. Typically, our office does not take a stand in favor or against permit parking districts because they can, maybe they don't come to this level as being contentious, but they often are contentious at my level, and we get lots of comments for and against. And that is why we always defer to the department and their expertise in the matter. And why I wanted to speak was to just publicly recognize the entire staff of the Department of Transportation. Their professionalism was exemplary, and to especially recognize Erin Thompson. I have never worked with a more wonderful, professional, intelligent, thoughtful, precise, impeccable member of the city family than Aaron, and I really, really appreciate him. And I wanted to let this commission know that his work was wonderful in this matter, and our office very much appreciates him and the entire DOT staff. And that's it.
Great, thank you.